Aloha, trust your gutters. Today is Tune In Tuesday, and I am Tara, the metabolic therapist, happy to create this online space for us to come together and discuss digestive troubles and woes. What are things that we can do to lessen our stress experience when we eat foods, as well as share recipes and understand best practices so that we can implement our day-to-day with some tricks to support our most vibrant selves. So thanks for joining. I am Tara, the metabolic therapist. I love to create and make digestive wellness a priority in your life. And I love to talk all things gut health. So go ahead, join us here, write your questions below. Let me know that you're here so that I can answer specific questions. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking about some things that I love and feel passionate about, in hopes that together we can create trust and safety and connection so that we can come together and help heal. All right, one thing that I've learned, I turned 42 this summer, and one thing that I've learned is more and more of us have various ailments or maladies that we get to deal with. And so I found ways to alternate my diet and lifestyle so that I can best serve various medical conditions that have come up for me and my body from chronic inflammation and stress. So my passion is to share that with others. I believe I'm not alone in this and love to talk all things gut health. Okay, so slotted for today, I'm wanting to talk about all things insulin resistance. And this is when the body has so much insulin being pumped out from the pancreas that it doesn't really respond to it anymore. And so the body keeps creating insulin and pumping that into the bloodstream. But after years of chronic high carbohydrates mixed with fat lipids, what happens in our body is there's more confusion. And this also equates to like free radicals and stagnant energy beginning to calcify or harden, especially in our beautiful arteries, our hearts. And this can show up for us later in life with our rheumatoid arthritis, aches and pains, and other various infectious happenings throughout our blood. So let me remind you, I'm not a doctor. I'm a passionate, certified health coach that works with doctor teams and you to find the best way to support your most vibrant self. So today with insulin resistance is the more and more that our body does not respond to the insulin that is secreted from our wonderful pancreas. Each time we take a bite of food, all of the enzymes get started, to break down that food so that our body can use it as fuel. And then as it goes down the esophagus and into the stomach, where all of the microbes and that hot stomach is designed, it's really acidic and it's designed that way. Each of our organs, our internal digestive organs, has a varying degree of pH because it has a different functionality. So in the stomach is where all the food gets broken down, microbes, bad bacteria, that is supposed to be relieved so that when the taken in food is exiting the stomach, then the pancreas puts in to the bloodstream and the small intestines this insulin, and it's designed to support the breakdown of glucose in the body. This is a really smart, wonderful thing, yet when the body is bombarded with way too many carbohydrates, which is rampant in our modern food supply chain, with lots of processed foods, packaged foods, and especially all the PUFA oils. These are rancid seed oils, canola oil, that's plenty. Soybean oil, a lot of these nasty oils that are just, it's become okay to utilize them in our cooking, and it's not good for this system. So we first want to remove processed food items from our pantry. Just get rid of them. And the more whole foods we take in, with the less inflammatory style responses from our body digesting it, then we take in food as medicine, and it inspires energy, and our body is able to feel vibrant with good sleep and lots of energy, as opposed to what shows up for many of us that are dealing with insulin resistance. Note the insulin resistance, also known as pre-diabetes, whether people are diagnosed as it or not, yet it's becoming like a leading factor. 1 out of 3 Americans the doctors are finding are insulin resistant. So this has a lot to do with our food supply chain, right? And how carbohydrates and fats are broken down in the body, and what that chemical response, what it does to either serve our best self or dampen our best self. Okay. So how might we tell if we are struggling with insulin resistance? One way is to be honest with yourself. How about what happens after you enjoy a meal? Do you find yourself needing to go crash on the couch and in a food coma? Or do you find that you feel strong, and there's this term of satiety? Like, do you feel satiated after you eat and, ready to go on with your day and tackle your tasks and goals? Like, there's a big difference between when we eat and we feel nourished and strengthened by something versus when we consume and eat, and if it just sends all of our digestive support into chaos, trying to make sense of the high sugar foods, right? And this isn't just high fructose corn syrup. I think more and more people are turning towards what they call natural sugars, but even fruits and natural sweeteners, when combined with other foods, sometimes can cause an elevated insulin response. Often does, depending on the stress, our personal history, and more and more. But what we do know to be true is that many folks are struggling with this. And one important way to check is, how do you feel after you eat? Do we have any insight here? It looks like there's a few of us gathering, and I promise to keep this private, but please, if you have a note or something you'd love to chat about, I'm all ears and making myself available for you. All right. So in addition to blood glucose response, how do we take in nourishment, and are we energized or depleted? Do we need to take a nap after we eat? It's really important to consider. Another piece I'd love to talk about today is food allergens. Do you ever notice, beyond the, I get really tired after I eat, are you aware of if you get itchy after you eat something? It might be in your ears, it might be on your elbow or on your low back, or you might have a place all your own that has a symptomatic response to a food. So over the last handful of years, more and more folks are going gluten-free. Autoimmunity is not hard, I don't want to say hard, but it's a lengthy process for diagnosis, yet many and most functional medical doctors are acknowledging that lots of Americans, Westerners eating a standard American diet have compromised digestive tracts. And this can come from the overuse of antibiotics, from all of the heavily sprayed pesticides on the vegetables that are ending up in the stores, as well as stress. Stress is like the silent, deadly killer. So have you been able to tell how you respond to various foods? Is there a certain food that, after I eat even broccoli, I eat broccoli, it's supposed to be a health food, but I feel really bloated and tired or, itchy, or what might you notice if you don't respond well to a food? Now, broccoli might be an extreme case, but for that example, I'd also love to ask you, like, do you notice how you feel when you eat bread? And what happens when you eat that, your favorite turkey sandwich or veggie sandwich? We're talking to meat eaters and vegetarians alike. Do you have awareness to offensive foods that might be increasing the inflammatory response inside of your body? What might that look like for you? Bloating, gaseousness, that could be burping, it could be bad breath, bad body odor. These are signs and signals that your body is experiencing stress when digesting this amazing food. Like we're designed to eat food for fuel. This is the primary reason we eat, is for strength and vitality. Yes, and I too, I'm a foodie. I love to sit down with family and enjoy delicacies and decadent foods and flavors. It's such a place for pleasure. And I promise you, it may not be easy, but I have been on the path of identification of what is most offensive inside my body and elimination. So eliminating the offensive foods that cause allergic responses inside of the body. This is my responsibility. It's my homework to do and to study what I take in and how I can, feel enlivened by it or weighed down. And so being your own investigative researcher is so important on this empowered path of a vibrant, loving life. So, given that, bye, Evan. Thank you. So, what are some other foods you might be allergic to? Oftentimes it's really taking a look at the grains. What happens when we eat bread? And is it all bread? Is it gluten, is it, sourdough bread versus Ezekiel bread? I'm of the mind that many of these grains, even the ones that are eldest and most revered in our cultures, my belief is that they've been adulterated through GMO processing, lots of pesticide sprays. So I'm not as trusting of the food supply chain. So I took a chance and cut them completely out of my life. And as I started noting earlier, it wasn't easy. I mean, there was like a grieving process of letting go of some of the most loved foods, and how many of us love biting into a bagel sandwich or something like that. And so I'm honest in that it wasn't an easy process. However, the cravings eventually fall away. Have you ever let go of something in your life, a bad habit, a bad relationship, that wasn't easy at first? And then over time, with consistent practice, the cravings, the emotional draw towards this toxic relationship, it just falls away. So I love to share how we can do that more so on our day-to-day so that we can, for good, let go of these offensive foods. And it's different from body to body based on our history with medications, antibiotics, where we grew up, what we grew up on, the type of water we drink, how much stress we live in, how much sleep we get. So lots to consider, but I'm hopeful that, over this next week, you can take a look at and truly identify, that food helped me to feel better, or that food increased my feelings of cravings, chasing sugars. It's the afternoon. I'm coming down. I need a sugary sweet snack or an extra cup of coffee, or, the chasing drill. All right. So I've been chatting. I hope that this is insightful. Please, whether you're watching now or you're watching later, leave me some notes so that I can learn what's most of interest for this, Trust Your Gut Club on Tuesdays. I'm happy to make space. I do it at a time that works in the middle of my day here in Hawaii, but also in hopes that it's a great time for you to take a lunch break and join with me. I realize that with YouTube, we're all over the globe. So even if you're catching this later and another time live would be best, simply let me know. I'm totally open for flexibility. And what I'm wanting is to create connection. Here we are, several months into lockdown consciousness, and some of us have turned to other than supportive health habits. And, many others are turning to, coping mechanisms that just don't serve our best self. So my intention here is to create a global community where we can feel supported and can swap stories, can swap recipes, and more. And be virtual support for one another. All right, so I don't know if you've watched my bone broth latte video, but I would love to share that recipe with you today. It's I drink a daily bone broth elixir, and it helps to soothe and nourish the entire digestive tract from the esophagus all the way down through the large colon. And it's nourishing, it's easy to assimilate. So it has a high nutrient content that's bioavailable, even for those of us that have compromised immune systems through stressed gut linings. So bone broth latte includes, grass-fed, grass-finished cattle bones. I love to make my own bone broth, although it took me a couple years. I was a long-term vegan and vegetarian that had to learn the hard way. I believed I was doing something wonderful for the planet and for my body, and the reality was I was malnourished for quite a few years. And where that leads to degeneration is in the nervous system. And why I'm so passionate about this is that by changing my diet and lifestyle and switching from a high carb, low fat lifestyle to a high fat, low carb lifestyle has done wonders for my brain health, my gut health, and my entire way of living. It's really shifted my consciousness and awareness. And where I'm also passionate about this is because of the growing population of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and just, degeneration of the nervous system. So I'm all things gut health, brain health, nervous system care, because what's happening as, I'm getting more and more clients that are, I've been thin my whole life and now all of a sudden I'm blown up, or, I've been eating this way for so long and now I can't remember things. I'm like in the middle of, some tasks and I'm like, what was I doing? Well, this nerve degeneration, it's slow in degeneration, yet it can take over. So I'm a big fan of Dr. Perlmutter, his work on grain brain and how he and others are fully committed to exploring the food supply chain and how it impacts our brain health, especially over time. All right, so lots to uncover. I grew up during the 80s where low fat was everything. Fat was like vilified. And so I spent a lot of time, I had to retrain myself. Oh my gosh, what do you mean add fat, add oil, add lard or tallow? Like, whereas now, oh, I feel satiated. I feel nourished. I no longer am like, oh, I have to have dessert or I have to have that chocolate treat. So happy to share with you guys here. So send some questions, write some notes, please. All right. Also, choosing to practice on these lives, it's vulnerable. I feel so silly, yet I also acknowledge that this is how the world's turning, and it seems like the kids are so comfortable with just being themselves in front of the camera. So I wanted to stretch myself and put myself out there so that I can improve skills in front of the camera, talking with you, and then also let you get to know me so that my personality, my heart shines through, so that there can be trust and safety developed, so that you, when the time is right for you, you'll contact me when you're ready to make your metabolic makeover. Because our metabolic functionality is much more than our metabolism. It's much more than, oh, am I, gaining weight or losing weight. Our metabolic functionality is what's happening inside of each cell. How strong is our functionality within the cells, So love to focus on our mitochondria health, and this comes from fat soluble vitamins, fat soothing every cell wall, every mucus lining from our mouth to the other side. So really happy to share with you ideas, tips, and tricks for your day-to-day. All right, everybody, I've been rambling long enough. I hope that you found some insight, some inspiration. Perhaps later you'll consider something. Please go ahead and write me. My direct website is themetabolictherapist.com. I'll write it there. I'll write it in the notes. And here is where you can check out some of my programs around metabolic makeovers, as well as set up your free one-on-one with me. This discovery call will last about 20 minutes, where I ask you a few questions ahead of time to prepare and chat with you about what's going on particularly for you and how I may be able to be your support system. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you've taken time to share with me. We have so many options in this swift day-to-day we live in, so each moment matters, and and this means a lot to me. So a hui ho, which in Hawaiian that means until next time. I feel blessed and honored to share with you in this space and place. Take good care of your guts, and we'll talk again soon. Aloha.